Welcome to Trail Tales ARP
A running podcast for every type of runner.
with Sean Soban and Russell the Runner.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Trail Tales, a running podcast, or Trail Tales ARP. I'm your host, Sean Soban. Russell the Runner is not with us today. We've got a great guest with us today. He's a youngin'. We've got young blood on the show today. 19-year-old Matt Munro is the youngest finisher ever at the Sulphur Springs 100 miler, and he did that just a few months ago. Matt, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me on. Feeling better every day.
Yeah, that's great. So, the Sulphur Springs 100 is a 100-mile race. It's hosted in Ancaster, Ontario.
Yeah.
And you just became the youngest finisher ever of that race. It happened just back in May on the 27th and 28th.
Mhm.
So, you're 19 years old. So how long have you been running?
Running consistently and running properly, like actually knowing what I'm doing, I'd have to say about a year, maybe just over a year. And then running, a decent amount, probably 2 years.
Okay, that's incredible. So what brought you to Sulphur Springs?
Well, I guess you could say start from the beginning, but the race just directly, I mean, I did chase the Coyote in September, the 50K race, and I knew I wanted to up it. I knew about races like Western States, Leadville, even events like Barkley Marathons, and I thought those were super cool. And you got to start, more local. So I saw, Sulphur was available in May, and I saw they had a 100-mile race. So I thought, hey, let's go for it. Let's see if we can get this thing done.
Amazing. So leading up to the race, how much time did you have from the day you decided, okay, I'm doing this to race day, if you can recall?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I wanted to do it probably since September when I did chase the Coyote, but I signed up in January, probably very beginning of January, and that's right when I started, was like bang on right at the beginning of the year. And so I started off. I basically had a training block to get me ready for the longer runs. So I started off a little bit shorter on 30, 40 kilometer weeks and then just worked from there. Yeah. So I had probably about 5 months, I'd say.
Okay, so that's a decent amount of time.
Yeah.
Now, coming off the Chase the Coyote, let's backtrack a little bit to that. So Chase the Coyote was a 50K at Mono Cliffs, hosted by my good friends from Gotta Run Racing. Also check out their podcast. But that 50K, was this your first ultra distance ever, or had you hit that distance kind of just in training? Like, how did that work
Yeah,
out for
no,
you?
it was without a doubt the furthest I'd ever run. I'm actually more of a Spartan athlete. The OCR, I'm more in the OCR world. Obstacle course racing, I love that stuff. So I'd only really run, the furthest distance I'd ever run was 21K actually in a Spartan Beast. And I'd never gone anything further than that. But I knew I wanted to do an ultra and really see how far I can go, because I had a feeling that I could go far. And so I signed up for this 50K, thinking, okay, this is pretty far. And I thought, oh, I've done a Spartan Beast, that's 21K, and then Chase the Coyote is two loops of 25K. So I thought, oh boy, imagine doing two of that, two of that. So I just signed up, and a buddy of mine actually did it as well. He's a good runner. Shout out to Mark, he's a great guy. But he did it. Unfortunately, he dropped, but he signed up. I signed up, and we just went in. And, I got it done in just over 6 hours, and I went through the most pain I've ever been through in my life. But right after, I knew I had to do 100. It was basically on the car ride home. I knew.
That's incredible, because usually after running an ultra, I guess during the race, you're like, I'm never gonna do this again. And then afterwards you're like, you know what? I'm doing a 100-miler now. Like, this is what I want to do. So, and it's just over 6 hours for Chase That Coyote is actually a really good time, because that's a pretty hilly course, right? Like, it has some challenging areas there.
Yeah, there's a few good climbs in there. I remember that damn hill was a good portion. It was a good climb in that course. But great route. I love that race. I wish they still had that race. But yeah, it was for my first ultra. I was pretty pleased with it. I remember I was I think I was at around the 35 kilometer mark, something like that, and there was or 30 kilometers, and I was into my second loop, and I said to an aid station, I said, "What place am I in? Do you know by any chance?" And they said, "You're in 14th position." And I thought, "Oh wow, hey, this is going decently," and I thought I'd really push, see if I could crack the top 10 mark, and I ended up busting around 40K, and I bonked, and it was a slow final 10K to the finish line. A bunch of guys passed me. I came 22nd, but out of 60, I was pleased with that.
Do you attribute that bonk to just kind of pushing yourself a little bit harder, trying to crack that top 10?
Yeah, probably. I should have waited for, maybe 7 kilometers left in the race. But
Yeah,
yeah, live and learn, right? It's one of those
that's it,
experience
man.
things.
Nothing wrong with the ambition, but you
Yeah.
live and learn, and you feel some pain and suffer for it. But it sounds like you still had a good experience at the end of the day, and you finished it. So congratulations on that. So you finished Chase the Coyote, and you're like, okay, 100-mile race. This is what I want to do. Did you know that Sulphur Springs was going to be that race for you at that time?
Instantly, no, I didn't. I didn't know exactly which races had 100-mile races, 100-mile events. I knew there was a few around. I've heard of these names like Tally in the Valley, Sulphur Springs. I heard of Halliburton. I've heard of Halliburton, and I knew there was this like some kind of stigma that it was some insanely hard race or some crazy, just what I've been told. And so I didn't really know what to do. I didn't. So the next thing I know is that same day I finished Chase the Coyote. My friend Mark, who has done a couple 100 milers, he texted me that same day after Chase the Coyote, and he sends me the link to Sulphur Springs. And I had a hunch there that was going to be the one that I was doing, and I said, "I'll see you there, man." And that was sort of it. And it was just this sort of um it didn't need to be spoken, but that was the one we were doing. That was it.
Yeah. Okay. So let me ask you, I want to pick your brain a little bit here. So,
Sure.
being relatively new to the sport, obviously not new to like athletics and racing and competition and everything, but new to kind of ultra running now and getting some crazy distances, right?
Hmm.
What was your preparation like for this, comparing it almost or contrasting it to preparation for a Spartan race? Like how did that vary other than like, increase volume and running and everything?
Yeah, I mean, it was, instantly I knew I was going to have to increase the mileage. I knew I wasn't, just based on my lack of running history and natural running ability, there isn't much. um, but I knew just because of a lack of running history and running background, I was going to have to raise the volume quite a bit. And so I stopped, I slowed down on the speed workouts a lot and, the really fast hill workouts. I still did hills because I knew there's hills and, there's trail running, right? So I still did hills, but, the speed workouts cut down a lot, the track workouts, that sort of thing, tempos. It was more just a lot of long, easy, slow miles. And, I still did, I'm a hybrid athlete. I love being in the gym, lifting weights. So I love the hybrid athlete training method. So I stayed in the gym, lifting weights, building a durable body. Trying to build a really really durable body that could take a pounding. But yeah, so in the EMOM workouts, CrossFit workouts, that sort of thing that I would do for Spartan, the muscular endurance, the conditioning, that slowed down a lot. I didn't really do as much of that. Um, but it was just more of long, like I did a lot of high rep exercises just to build a lot of muscular endurance. And yeah, it was just everything was basically just prolonged. Like all my training, in my mind, I thought, well, let's just prolong everything, right? Just make everything just an endurance based.
Yeah, so longer and slower, but trying to build that
Yeah,
endurance and prep your body for it. Very wise move, I think, to keep up with that strength training. Keeping in mind you're making certain modifications to prep for the
yeah.
ultra run.
Hmm.
So 5 months, I guess, of that kind of preparation for this 100-miler. How
Yeah.
did you feel on the start line?
Of the 100 miler or Chase the Coyote?
100-miler, 100-miler.
100 miler, yeah. I mean, it was weird. It was just kind of one of those moments like you don't, you've been waiting for it to come, weeks leading up to it. It's just like, oh man, I wish it was today. I could just get it done. But on the start line, it was just sort of like it was. It's hard to explain the feeling. It was like, wow, we're actually here. We're doing this. Like, there's no or no backing out now. This is it. Like, we're here, and we're not leaving until it's over, and that could be 30 hours from now, which it basically was. And my dad was there. My dad and a good friend of mine, Amir, were they were my crew for the entire, and so I really do have to hand it to them. They really pushed me through that, especially that back half. That back half, really, that last 50 miles. Whew, that was rough. But no, the starting line, it's hard. It's one of those things. It's hard to explain.
Mhm.
Everyone there. It was high adrenaline. It was definitely high adrenaline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find yourself trying to like kind of just like calm your nerves down a little bit and try to stay calm, or was it like too hard and just caught up in all the excitement?
Yeah, I mean, I was recognizing some familiar faces, like even some guys from Spartan racing that I recognized. And there were so many people there too, because it wasn't just the 100 miler guys. It was the 100 miler guys, the 100K guys, the 50 mile, 50K guys. It was a bunch of people, and I recognized some familiar faces. And I'm just trying to get all my stuff together. Like we went the day before to set our tent up and bring the chairs out and everything like that, just so we'd have everything ready for the next morning. And just between making sure like all my food is in the right spot, I make sure I have my scratch powders ready to go, different bars, stingers, all these different things. I have this big bag of them, and I just said, yeah, just fill my pack up with them every time I come in for a loop. And we're just quickly going over everything. And so it was a little bit hectic, but and then I realized, oh, go to the bathroom before, because it's you're out there for 20K, right? So it's just a multitude of things happening really, really rapidly. And then like, okay, we got everything, right clothes, you got your poles, you got your bottles are filled, everything, you got your scratch, your hat, what do you need? And it's like, okay, let's go to the start line. And I got there with about 5 minutes to go.
Oh wow, so just made it. But you know what, I think if that was me, I'd probably prefer it that way too, because you're not sitting there for so long at the start
Yeah,
line, just
yeah,
thinking and psyching yourself out, right? Like, okay, we're here, let's go, let's do this. Don't think, just
yeah,
move. So that's pretty good.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask, like, each time you're coming into your tent, into your station, getting kind of restocked and stuff, if you could play it back each time you're coming in to the tent, what your mentality is like, early on versus later on in the race, and what kind of things your crew is doing for you to kind of get you back out there.
I'm not sure your question.
So I just want you to kind of recount like what it was like for you every time you're coming back into the tent. Like you're doing loops, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So every time you're coming back in, right? I'm sure first loop you're feeling good, whatever. As you
yeah.
start to wear down, where's your head space at in those tougher moments, and what is your
Hmm.
crew doing for you to help you kind of get back out there and keep going and not quit? Because I'm sure at
Right.
some point your body and your mind is trying to, you get to that mental game, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
man, I could just stop right now. I don't have to go back out there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, funny. This was the thing that I was really interested about, is because it wasn't just me going into this never having done 100 miles. It was my crew as well, and they're just as much invested in this as me. They're there for the entire thing, and I do believe that they have just as hard a job as me. I can't imagine, especially my dad. He's my dad, right? So he's stressed about not just oh, is he going to finish, but he's concerned about the health of his kid too, right? So just that as well. But every time I came in, we were like the first three, I'd say I was doing all right. But after the second, that's 40K, and I knew that I would hit my mileage PR on the next loop, on the third loop. And so I knew, like, after 2.5 loops, after 50K, that's I'm running blind, I'm going into unknown territory. And I was running into the unknown, really running into the unknown. And so after that, the third loop, I was just like, well, we're sailing free after this, and just seeing, it's unknown. It's a completely uncharted territory. So after the third, it was a little bit nerve-wracking, knowing, okay, so we still have 100 kilometers left to go. uh but then we cracked through that and just worked down, and I tried to avoid counting down the miles, but every loop I came in, my crew was there. It was phenomenal, and they just did such a great job. I was eating different things. I tried to treat the meals and the certain loops as times of the day when I would be having, like, breakfast, lunch, maybe an afternoon snack, dinner, that sort of thing. So I just to for mental reasons, just to stay happy, and just to not shock my body with something new as well, right? So I would have things like chicken. I had a chicken burger at one point, and late I think it was around 3 a.m. It was one of those late loops. I had a nice bowl of macaroni and cheese. That was really, really nice. Um, just deep something that deep into the race, and just something really uplift your spirit. It's really strange how something so minor like that can bring you up like that. But yeah, every loop my dad was there, walked me in, walked me out, sat in the chair. They took my pack off me. They filled my bottles back up with everything, loaded it up with the exact bars, Cliff Chews, goos, stingers. I even took a banana out a couple times with me. And we just ran through a little checklist every time, saying, okay, got this, got this, got this. Do you need to change your socks, your shoes? Actually, at one point, I think it was after the second loop. I couldn't believe it. This had never happened. I got a blister on my left big toe, and I didn't know. And I guess I was changing my socks, and my dad noticed it, and he said, okay, so it's not that big right now. He said, is it bothering you? I said, no. And he said, okay, so don't touch it then, just leave it. So I go back out, I finish my third loop, I come back, and he went to the medical tent during that time, during my third loop, and he got this really like this professional grade. You definitely know what it is. It's this tape. It's like it's really good medical tape.
Okay.
And we took my sock off, and the blister had become huge at this point, and we didn't pop it. The medical guys said, don't pop it, just put like a moleskin over it. So we did that, and then just wrapped the tape around it and just left it. Didn't notice it for the rest of the race. It popped at some point, I don't know when, but
Yeah.
it was very good.
So it was kudos to, I guess it was your dad that caught the blister there.
Yeah.
You were able to stay on top of it before it actually got painful and became a problem for you, and you were able to kind of get that protective covering on top, and able to carry on. That's a great catch on his part, because like you
Yeah.
said, you didn't even know it was there, right? So
I had no idea.
by the time you
No
knew it
idea.
was there, if you had got to that point, it would have already been maybe too late, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I know it, because if it pops and there's no protection around it, and the moisture and then the friction rubbing, it can ruin a race.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you haven't met my co-host Russell. He's not with us here tonight, but he recently went out and was going to run a 100 miler, and he had ended up having a blister causing him a DNF
Oh,
on his
really?
pinky
Yeah.
toe. Yeah, yeah, it was just one of those things. So tough outcome for him, but lessons learned, and carrying on, right? So yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's funny. You think it's just a little blister, but man, it can really affect you.
Oh, yeah, big time. They hurt. They hurt a
Yeah.
lot.
So it sounds like, your crew, your dad was there, and you guys had a very good process when you were coming in. You had a checklist, which I think is a fantastic idea, and just kind of keeping your spirits up, getting that nice wholesome food in, and
Yeah.
timing it with your meals of the day. It's pretty good strategy, I think, and just getting back out there, and
Yeah.
being excited. So what was it like for you when you're kind of out there in the middle of the loop? Did you have any points where you were just, really just suffering and feeling like, man, how am I gonna finish this? Or like, the next 100 meters is gonna feel like a kilometer. Like, how were you able to kind of get through those moments? Did you have any mental strategies, or was this just like sheer grit and determination that got you through all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things. I think you have no choice. You just got to keep moving. Uh, I knew that standing around wasn't going to do me any good, and I never once sat down on the trail or on a bench apart from a chair at an aid station, or at main camp. I never sat down other than those times, which I was really happy about. I just knew in my mind that I had to keep moving forward, and I'd watched so many ultra documentaries, and in every single one of them they say keep moving forward, keep moving forward. So I just did that, and whether I was walking, shuffling, or running, I just kept moving forward. And I've heard them say so many times, if you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. and I was willing to crawl, but I didn't want to have to. But it definitely became tough in the night. The nighttime was really, that was a rough go, and my crew had to really keep throwing me out. I remember there was I started to cry actually after probably loop 5, and like it was just it started to hurt real bad, and I started to lose sight of what my actual goal was and finishing and the whole and the belt buckle and everything. I really did lose sight of it, and my dad, my crew, they just kept throwing me out there. Once I was out there, I was okay. I knew I was in a lot of pain, but I was able to keep myself moving forward. I also had pacers, which was very helpful. I had a pacer on loop 6, 7, and 8, all three different guys, all great guys that I know very well. So they kept me moving forward really well, and yeah, I do owe it to them as well. They were holding me on good pace, talking to me, you just saying, you're gonna finish this and it's gonna be over.
Well, yeah, you really do highlight the fact that as much as this is an individual sport, it really does take a
Mhm.
team, like a well
Yeah,
cohesive team to
yeah,
kind of make a successful ultra runner, right?
yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt about it. I didn't see anybody there uncrewed that was doing 100 miles.
Yeah. So, couple questions still I have for you. So, first one, I guess, this being, your first 100 miler for you and your crew,
Hmm.
you know, looking back on it now, what things would you keep the same in terms of like your setup and how you prepared for it? And what things would you change going into your next one?
Yeah, good question. Really everything within, the crew aspect, I would keep the exact same. I'd keep the exact same people that were my crew. I keep the exact same meals. Thankfully touch wood, I've never had an issue like stomach issues during the race. As well as Chase the Coyote, never had a stomach issue. So that was really I'm grateful for that. So I wouldn't change any make any dietary changes, no people changes within the crew. Um, I'd just train longer. I would give myself more time to train for the race. And I would do longer training runs. Like I would probably do a 60 or a 70K run. I'd like to do that before the race. The longest run I'd ever did was Chase the Coyote, and that was in September, and that wasn't but for training for the 100 miler. So I did 340K runs, but that's the in preparation, but that's the only thing I would change really is my ability to deal with the long races, and just so train longer runs.
Awesome. I can certainly appreciate that answer. Looking into the ultra running community, are there any ultra runners that you kind of look up to or kind of follow that try to learn from a little bit?
Yeah, this is a great question actually. I'm really glad you asked this one. There's a few guys. Nick Bear is a YouTuber. He owns the BPN supplement company. He's quite the hybrid athlete. He did a bodybuilding competition a few months ago. He ran a sub 250 marathon last year. He did Leadville 100 and then Rocky Raccoon 100 miler. So I definitely look up to him in terms of his dedication, his discipline to what he does, and how he focuses on what his goal is, and just he achieves it because of how well he's dedicated to it. Another one is Ryan Atkins. He's a Canadian obstacle course runner. He's a Spartan World Champion in 2021, and he's Canadian too, right? So I definitely look up to him. The guy's just a fitness machine. He's won World's Toughest Mudder, I think, 4 or 5 times, which is just absolutely crazy. He's never lost while he's been there,
Wow.
actually. And then, of course, like Jim Walmsley, the ultra runner. He's Western States record holder. Yeah, I can't say enough about the guy. He's definitely a big idol of mine, Walmsley. I'd love to meet the guy one day. But no, those are definitely probably my three biggest idols I have.
Excellent. And it sounds like with your hybrid training and stuff, those are good guys
Yeah,
to kind of idolize and look up to, eh?
yeah, big time. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
big time
Yeah.
for sure.
So let me ask you, like looking to the year ahead or even into next year, what are your goals now? Where do you go next after this?
Yeah, good question. I've been wondering the same thing myself, honestly. I do want to see how fast I can do some of those shorter distance races. Shorter distance. I mean, within the ultra world, I guess you could say. But
Yeah,
like where I met you at the 50K, I'd love to. I want to see how fast I can do some 50Ks and stuff like that. I'm very confident I can crack sub 5 hours. So I'd like to really do that. I have a race schedule lined up, so I'm doing a couple, two or three 50Ks this year. And I'd like to do another 100 miler this year, but next year I think is going to be that's going to be more of an improvement year for me, just to see. Okay, so I took this year. We'll see what I learned and apply it to next year, right? So
right.
I'd I'd really like to run a qualifier race for Western States for
Nice.
within 2024 to qualify for 2025, hopefully. I'd really love to do that. That's on the list, as well as a I'm gonna do sulfur again. I think I'm gonna do sulfur. And hopefully run a 200. I really, really want to do a like hopefully Tahoe or a Bigfoot, something like that.
Nice, nice. Pretty
Mhm.
lofty goals, but I think, at your age and accomplishing what you've already done, I think those are certainly doable. So I guess would it be fair to say that this year has been kind of more of like like you said, a learning or experimental year to kind of see where you're at and test the waters. You mentioned, the 50K where we met. So can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about
Cool.
it.
All right. So that was in my hometown of Shelburne. So that was the Fiddle 50. And it's fairly unique race. So it's a 1 kilometer loop, right? And had
Yeah.
the 50K distance. I think there's 100K as well in relays. So you were there for the 50K, and it was how many weeks after you did the 100 miler?
It was 1 week.
It was
It
1 week,
was
1 week out.
yeah, it was 1 week after. I think I
Yeah.
got a little ahead of myself on that one. David Goggins, he did 8 100-mile races 8 weeks in a row, I think with almost no training, something insane. So I thought I'd at least try to do another ultra or 50K with within the 7 day period. And unfortunately didn't work out, but I think we definitely made the right call there to drop out. But hey, I tried my buddy podiums, which I was super happy about. Shout out to Alan. He actually paced me at Sulphur actually.
Amazing.
Uh, and he podiums. He had a great race, but yeah, no, my IT band, it was flaring up, and it just wasn't worth it, the injury.
Yeah. So first off, kudos to Adam because that was his first 50K on his end, right? So
Oh, big time.
way
Yeah,
to go,
he
bud.
he he had a phenomenal race. Phenomenal.
Yeah, yeah, and I remember at one point. So yeah, you had come up. I was volunteering at the race in the medical tent, and you had come up and describing your knee. I was like, oh, it sounds like IT band, and
Yeah.
we had a bit of a chat and talked about
Hmm.
what your future goals are and how important that race was to you. And ultimately, I think you made the right decision and decided to okay, I'm just going to pull out and conserve the body and it's a DNF.
Yeah.
It sucks, but you look towards the future. But one of the funniest things you had mentioned after is you're sitting on the sidelines eating pizza and you're saying it's way better on this end of the race.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's funny because I'd actually wondered what it's been like, being a spectator or on a crew, because I've always, it's always, my mom at the Spartan races for me. I'm always the one actually doing the racing. So it was actually nice to be on the other side of the fence, and I had a great time doing it too.
Yeah, that gave me a good chuckle. That was really good. So how are you
Yeah.
feeling now after that? How's the IT band doing? How's your training going right now?
Yeah, thanks for asking. I'm starting to very, very, very gradually increase the mileage during the week. I think last week I ran 12K. Excuse me. Oh, there, it didn't sneeze. I thought I had one there.
Almost.
Um, yeah, I did 12K last week. Well, that wasn't all running though. That was all walking as well. I'd say probably 7 or 8K of that was walking. But it's going better. A lot of foam rolling. I think that can always help. I do cold plunges all the time. Mix of hot and cold is great. I think for me it seems to work pretty well, but it has been slow going. It has been slow going. I'll admit that. Um, I do take a couple running steps throughout the day. Maybe just whenever I can, just do a little bit of light jogging, light steps, but. Yeah, it's a frustrating thing to get through. It's just one of those things where you want to start running, and run through the pain, but it doesn't work like that. Yeah, I've just been trying to foam roll, rub A535. I'm not sure if that's helping or not, but yeah, that's basically it for that for now. It's getting better though. It's definitely getting better.
That's good. I'm glad to hear you're on the mend. And yeah, it's certainly one of those injuries that is frustrating because um you feel like I'm just going to run through it, but you can't. It's a very unique pain as well, and it affects your walking gait too, like when it's really flared up.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I even remember watching you drink as that day progressed at the Fiddle 50, and kind of the limp was getting worse and worse. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
it took me back to when I had my IT issue. And you know, for some words of encouragement, when I had my IT flare up, it did take a while to get out of it, but I'd never had it come back since.
Oh, okay. That's
So
good.
so that's good, right? And so hopefully this is the kind of the one time you got to deal with it, and then you can kind
Yeah.
of move on and go forward. But movement is good, and as my good friend and previous guest Dave Kempson always says, motion is lotion, right? So you want to kind of
Yeah.
keep it within parameters, and you know where you're at right now, and just got to keep progressing and do all the treatments. And have you seen any like medical professionals to kind of get some treatment on it as well, or no?
I haven't. I haven't seen any, physio or anything like that. Um, I'm not a professional, but I think I know my body pretty well. And just how to gauge things properly and when to, I can start, maybe incorporating a little bit more running. But based on the way things have been going, I think I'm doing all right. The pain is less and less. I can, if I do start to feel something during a little jog or anything, I'll stop right away. Or, just do a little intervals of running and light jogging and not even running. It's like
Yeah.
light jogging and walking. I also do a lot of stretches and I'm doing a lot of hip exercises and knee exercises, single leg exercises, things like that. So, trying to stretch like the whole hip area and the lower back as well.
Yeah. I know. I don't know if you ever had any piriformis problems, but I had some piriformis issues too. It's like this really deep muscle in your butt. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the pigeon pose in yoga. It's a difficult stretch to get into, but man, it really just stretches out your glute and into your hip and stuff. It's a really good one.
Okay. No, I don't
Yeah,
think I've heard of that one. I'm gonna have
yeah,
to
look
look
it
at
up.
that.
It's a good one, man. If you ever get the piriformis syndrome, it sucks. So that one's, I just got tight hips and stuff
Hmm.
too. So I
Yeah.
don't stretch as much as I should.
So easy to get injured in running.
Oh,
Oh
it
my
is.
gosh.
It
That's one
is.
thing that I've really learned. Oh boy.
Yeah.
The stretching and the weight training definitely it helps you avoid it for sure. So I'm gonna take that more seriously.
Yeah, I think it sounds like you've got a very good base and foundation with all your strength training and stretching you already do with your Spartan stuff and everything. So I think,
Hmm.
you've got a good one. You just gotta keep focused on that too. Cause sometimes like me, I'm horrible for that stuff. Like I just want to get out the door and run.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to warm up. But then next thing you know, I'm hurt. So it's just, you gotta be more
I know,
careful.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll start running and before the injury, before the race, I'd start running and I'd feel, a little pain and sometimes you run through it and it completely goes away. It's
Yeah.
kind of funny how that works sometimes, but this is definitely not one of those things.
Yeah, all a learning process, my friend. But Matt, listen, I want to thank you for your time and coming on the show. It's been great to interview. Before you go, I'm going to ask, because you're on camera, we're going to put this up on YouTube. Do you have your belt buckle to show the audience? Is it nearby?
I can get it if you want. It's really
Go get
close.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go get it.
Okay. All
Let's see
right.
this. Let's
All
see
right.
this.
I'll be right back.
All right. Matt's gone to go get his hardware from Sulphur Springs, so this will be kind of a nice treat to see. One of the belt buckles from Sulphur Springs for being a finisher of the 100 miler, and not only a finisher, but the youngest ever finisher of the 100 miler. Yeah, so you can check out Matt's article too at runningmagazine.ca. They covered his race at Sulphur Springs. It's pretty cool. I'll put a link in the show notes. All right, let's see the belt buckle. Let's see the hardware.
There we are.
Very nice.
That's it. The lighting's not so great, but let me see here.
There you go. It's got the Sulphur Springs logo on there, 100 miler.
Yeah.
Nice. Can I see the
100
backside
miles.
of it? I've never seen the backside of these buckles.
Yeah, so it is a
It
real
is.
belt
It's a
buckle.
legit belt buckle.
Yeah, I've put it on a belt, and that's getting only worn to special events. But yeah, it is a real buckle.
Congratulations, buddy. Well deserved and well earned, man.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
I'm sure you have many other belt buckles in your future too. In your
I hope so. I
running
hope
career.
to get some of those. Yeah.
Yeah. So Matt, listen, man, we'll sign off now, and we'll definitely keep in touch, and we'll check in and see how your recovery is going and see what your next race is going to be. Until then, my friend, you run wild.
Appreciate it, Sean. Thanks for having me on. I really, really do appreciate it.
And that's a wrap on this episode of Trail Tales ARP, a running podcast from Sean Sobon and Russell the Runner. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at trail_tales_ARP. Check out our YouTube channel at Trail Tales ARP, and you can catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Please don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. Catch you next time. Run wild.